So a little bit on roles and responsibilities. Role is sort of the expected behavior pattern. And we kind of attribute a certain set of behaviors. When you are the religious educator, these are the things these are our expectations. You're going to pay attention to families. You're going to participate in the Sunday service and do a story. You're going to make sure that everything is in the classrooms that's needed. You also have other roles in the congregation. You may have pastoral care roles. You may be a member of a congregation, and you have to figure out sort of what hat you're wearing at one time. And the same thing applies to folks on the RE committee. We may have an RE committee member who, sometimes we have an RE liaison to the board. So you have somebody who's on the RE committee, and when they're sitting there at the table, they're one of us, but yet they have a loyalty and a covenant with another group, which is the board. Folks may also be involved with social justice. People may wear many different hats in the congregation. So clarity around sort of what the expectations are in a different each set of circumstances can be helpful. The difference between a role and a responsibility is the role is sort of the bigger, amorphous, fuzzier thing, and sometimes it's symbolic. The responsibilities are the task. This is the tangible, what do I do in my 30 hours a week? And I am responsible for Sunday programming. I am responsible for communicating with volunteer teachers. I'm responsible for providing a parent orientation for OWL. I may have indirect responsibility, which things like people may pass me and say, my grandmother passed away this week, and so we may extend some immediate pastoral, I'm so sorry to hear that, and we have some books, and if there's something we can do. And so that's sort of an indirect responsibility. It may not be even in the job description. For some people it is, but it may not be. And then, of course, there are shared responsibilities where there's a primary person, but then other folks are necessary and other parts are part of the process. And just understanding, where do I have direct responsibility? And where is, and when I have to prioritize, what's really more important? Are my indirect responsibilities more important? Is it situational? If somebody stops and says there's been a death in the family, even though that's not a direct responsibility, that's a pretty important relational moment that sometimes we need to stop. But figuring out how those things fit together and what has priority can be challenging. So when we think about delegation, generally speaking, the things that we can delegate are the tasks that really somebody else is better at. Or maybe things that are just time critical, but they're not maybe a direct responsibility, and maybe they're not the highest priority. If my highest priority is putting on Sunday programming, I may not be concerned about setting up for an after-church event. We also want the task to be matched to the person in terms of difficulty. One thing that I know I experienced from RE committees is this sense that, the DRE she gives us all the junk work. And so those folks are not able to really put their passion and engage their creative side in a way that makes them feel useful and makes them feel that they're contributing to the mission. And so sometimes, as religious educators, there's work that we want to claim because, this is just my favorite thing to do. I love to tell the story. And sometimes there are other people there who have really great skills, and we need to think about, how we can share both the things we love and the things that maybe we're not so excited about. So In terms of sharing responsibilities, as much clarity as possible is highly recommended. Flexibility is always good, but there are times when you must be flexible because you can't reach that level of explicitness or clarity that really says, you do this exact piece and you do this exact piece. There's always going to be a task around that has an area of grayness to it. And there's no right or wrong way here. The way that we separate out roles and responsibilities, the way that we delegate, they're really, you have to find what works in your system, what works for you and your leadership style, what works with for the culture of the committee that you're working with, and there'll be some conflict along the way, but sharing responsibility ultimately is an important part of sort of moving into that full-fledged partnership, sense of partnership. So sharing the leadership is a little different than sharing responsibility. Somebody's leading, somebody's following, but everybody is integral to the dance. Now, of course, there's this sense in congregations that everything is a little bit of a precarious balance, that we have lots of different tasks, and we have a variety of people engaged in those tasks, some of them who are highly skilled and some not so. And there's often a sense of anxiety that comes from the work that goes on in congregations, because it is this sense that it all sort of rests on, in this case, this particular graphic has the pastor sort of balancing on his tiny little ball, and sometimes the religious educator has that sense too, that they have this really big portfolio, and the success of not only themselves, but the success of the volunteers really rests on their ability to balance some big things. So again, no single right way. You have to figure out, gain clarity around your roles and responsibilities, figure out what our different styles of leadership are, and the way that we engage and the dance that we do and how we negotiate how we're going to lead together can change. You may start out one way, and if you're a new religious educator or new in the position, you're going to come in and the expectations are very high, and your expectations are high. But you're also still discovering what all those norms are and figuring out where the minefields are and where the little rabbit holes are. And then over the course of 3 or 5 or 7 years, the balance of power may shift. The partnership will change. Different people will lead and different people will follow. So I keep coming back to clarity, as clear as we can be about what our expectations are of one another and what our responsibilities are. And I don't know if you're familiar with the old responsibility worksheet, where you kind of list all the tasks across the side, over the top, religious educator, religious education committee. It's just a graphic grid type document that you should be doing that every year. That is something that should happen at your RE retreat if you do one in the fall or over the summer. That is how part of the way that you negotiate your responsibilities and you negotiate your partnership. And that particular graph should be done over and over during your tenure as a religious educator. Sometimes we do that at the CRE startup. Got to keep doing it. Blurriness and flexibility is okay as long as we all acknowledge, say, well, I'm not really sure how this is going to work, but I'm willing to give it a try. And this is the way that I will communicate to you if I feel it's not working. So a good partnership